G'day everybody and welcome back. Today we're going to be checking out the brand new starter decks. That's right, starter decks. Bandai's not releasing one, they're not releasing two, they are releasing 6 brand new starter decks. That's right, you need to check underneath your chairs. Bandai is doing an Oprah Winfrey and giving everybody a starter deck.
Goodness! Everybody gets
Starter deck. And on top of that as well, they're actually doing a sealed event, similar to what we did with the Uta starter deck if you're around playing the game then. Except this time there's not going to be just mirror matches, it's going to be a nice variety. So in today's video, we're going to talk about what that event looks like, what you can get from playing that event, and then we'll break down each of the decks, talk about what we recommend for the event, as well as how the starter decks are going to impact the OP08 meta. If you do find this video helpful, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We will also be having budget and full power deck profiles for the starter decks coming out when they drop, and hopefully we can get our hands on all the starter decks, because I know here, at least for us here in Australia, there's been a bit of a shortage when it comes to these starter decks. It's going to be released in a couple of waves, and both waves allocations are pretty poor, so hopefully things are better for you guys in your region. And if you want to talk more about One Piece, we do have a Discord. Feel free to try and do some play testing for the event in the Discord as well. All right, let's jump over to the official One Piece website here. As you can see by this lovely graphic here, we've got starter deck 15 to 20, 6 starter decks coming out, releasing on the 25th of October, and that's the first day that this release event starts. So it's going to run from October 25th all the way to November 15th. I believe registrations will open October 11th. So make sure you're checking your Bandai app for that date. Now, if you haven't played a sealed event for One Piece yet, basically how this works, and it's really simple when it comes to the starter decks, you'll have one of these starter decks that you'll take to the event. You won't be able to modify it. Technically you will, but we'll talk about that in just a moment. Basically, you're just going to be playing with one starter deck, and you're going to be duking it out, and the winner's going to take home the prizes, which we'll have a look at in just a moment. So if we scroll down a little bit, we can see our prize list here for the event. For participation, we'll get a play sheet. So I'm assuming this is just basically going to come in the deck, or maybe the deck that you choose, you can choose one of these play sheets. So I'm assuming this is just going to be a paper fold up sheet. So we got one of each of the new leaders here in Whitebeard, Uta, Doflamingo, Luffy, Smoker, and Katakuri. And when I say new, there's a bit of an asterisk there, which we'll get into in just a moment. But these are new arts of these leaders. Now, I wouldn't complain if these were released in more like an official proper playmat capacity. That would actually be pretty nice. Some nice artworks with some of these leaders. If we scroll down further, we can have a look at the participation pack, which you get one of these for just entering the event. It's going to have one card in the pack, so there's 6 different types you can get, and these are all based around the leaders, the decks. None of these cards are in the decks that we are going to be getting access to, but these can be a nice little buff, and this is technically what you can add into your starter deck, because the rules for the sealed events is you can only use the sealed product that you receive from the event. So technically this is something you can slot in there. So you can see they'll have these release stamps on there. There'll be a participation and then a winner for the winner of the event. But this here's your Whitebeard Pirates type searcher, not a bad one if you want to play Newgate. Got a 2k counter for the Uta deck, which is not bad at all. We got a Shirahoshi, great yellow card for the Katakuri deck. Get some nice draw hand filtering going on. We've got Crocodile, 2k counter. They can also do some shenanigans there. And then we have the Banish Zoro, which goes with the Luffy. Not a bad option as well. And then finally we have Tashigi, which is just a 2k counter. Now, if we scroll down here, the winner pack is the exact same cards here. They'll just have a winner stamp. I assume the graphic for these is the same, but it should just have a winner stamp, where these might just have a participation stamp, or maybe even this release event stamp. And finally, the thing that you get with this is part of the winner stuff here. The winner will get a storage box with all the artworks on it. I'm assuming this might be a little cardboard storage box. Don't know the quality of that at this point in time. And as we can see down here, the applications do open on October the 11th. So make sure you check in your Bandai app, check in with your local store for this as well. Now, quickly we'll pop over to the Japanese version of the One Piece website here. They got some nice graphics going on here, but updated some stuff for the English sorts of things. But here we can kind of get a sneak preview. Won't spend too much time here, but I want to point out a difference that we have between the Japanese version of the decks and the English version of the decks. So we've got the Newgate there, we've got the Uta there, some of the new cards there, Doflamingo, the Luffy, the Smoker, and the Katakuri. And here we go go. So this is the part I want to point out in the contents here. So we've got, you get your deck in here, you get your leader, you get your Don cards, you get your 3 index cards, and that's all that you receive in the Japanese version. So if we go back to the English page here, and we go over to the starter deck tab, we open that up. This is going to take us to the English version here. And if we look at the contents over here, looking fairly similar. At the top, we've got a deck, we've got a Don card, we've got the play sheets, but we have a premium booster pack. So that means each deck is going to come with a bonus booster pack. You can't complain with that. The premium booster is going to have some nice reprints in there. So there could actually be some things you could probably chuck in your deck that way. Technically falls in the rules. Just check with your locals there. Don't go saying some dude on YouTube told you could do it without checking if your locals is okay with it. But you can chuck those in your deck, and you can have your chance at pulling some nice manga rares out of this one as well. That's definitely a highlight for us. We love it when there's some extra goodies in the star decks. And you'll see as we go along, like, these star decks are really good for new players. Like, you'll love it as a new player coming in. But for us older players, there's not a whole lot of new exciting things going on there. But this just makes the deal a little bit sweeter. All right, so on screen we have all 6 of the leaders. We mentioned them before. This is the original artwork. So none of the leaders that we're getting in these starter decks, 15 to 20, are going to be new leaders. They're all old leaders. So we've got OP02 Whitebeard, we've got starter deck 11 Uta, OP1 Doflamingo, OP5 Luffy, OP2 Smoker, and then OP3 Katakuri. Now these are the beautiful artworks that we will be getting from them. All of them absolutely look amazing, and we'll jump over to the sim where we'll have a breakdown of each of these decks so you can get an idea of how many of each card will come in each deck, because you know Bandai loves to make you buy 2 of each deck to be able to play the decks. But these are them here. My favorite artworks, probably just look at the Uta is pretty good. The Katakuri, even Doflamingo, look, they're all actually pretty good. Let me know what your favorite one is in the comment section down below. All right, we're jumping over to the sim. First of all, we got starter deck 15, which will be the Newgate leader, 6k power, 6 life, which is, you know, wild, especially if you're a new player. But at the end of your turn, you take the top card of your life added to your hand. So you're slowly going down your life each turn. And we have a bunch of old cards in here. This is why I was saying initially, for us older players, this is why these starter decks aren't super exciting. There's only a few new cards in here, but we'll go over them here. In most decks, you do get 8 blockers and 6 2k counters. There is a couple of exceptions in there, and then you get a few new cards sprinkled in there as well. So let's take a look at the Whitebeard deck here. So you get your Jozu, which is a 2k counter, which also can be rushed, which is really nice. You get a blocker Marco, you get a full playset of that. Rakuyo, you get a full playset here. This is Don times 1. All your Whitebeard type characters gain a 1000 power, and basically that's all your characters in here. There's it's a very nice theme going through here, not really gonna miss out on that effect there at all. And we've got Izo, which is a searcher for your Whitebeard pirates. As previously mentioned, it's not gonna whiff, it's gonna get anything in here, which is quite nice. You get a full playset in there. You get Speedjill, which is a vanilla full playset, 4 cost 6000 body. You get your Namul, also a vanilla, just a 3 cost 5000 body. You get your Hatura. This one's really decent because it helps manipulate your Don. You can use that to go on the Rakuyo to help buff your characters. You can put it on your leader, so you're swinging 7k and at your opponent. You can, swap and change it everywhere. Full playset of that. We also get a full playset of Fossa, our blocker. So we get Marco and the Fossa as our blockers there. We've got Jozu as a 2k counter. The other 2k counter we'll go into in just a moment, but we're going to move on to the new cards, the new and exciting stuff here. We get a new Atmos here. This is 4 cost 5000 body, 1000 counter. When attacking, if your leader is Newgate, you cannot take your life from your own effects. So this card is pretty key, especially in this kind of format for this exact deck, because as we mentioned, Newgate's effect is always to take a life at the end of your turn. If you have Atmos out and you're swinging, you're going to stop yourself from negating your life, which is good, because then you have that big body that's not always going to be having this drawback effect there. So it's probably a key card for this deck, especially for this format. Next new card that we have here is a Newgate in the super rare. This is the biggest body that you have access to in the deck, 7 cost 8000 body. On play, give something a rested Don, and then activate main, you can rest this character, KO one of your opponent's characters with 5000 power or less. And in this format that you're going to be hitting a bunch of things. If you just look at the Whitebeard deck here, you're going to hit everything except for the Ace, the Whitebeard itself, and then the Speedjill. Everything else you're going to hit without that effect. Just keep an eye out as we go through the other decks. You're going to be hitting most things as well. So immediately you get some nice value you can play and use the ability to KO something. So yeah, it's like a semi-rush, but you're just going to be taking out a character. Next up, we have Kingju. So this is one of those exceptions I was talking about. So this is another 4 blockers that we get in the deck here. So 3 cost, 4,000 body, 1,000 counter blocker, as we just mentioned. Then an opponent's turn, when this character is KO'd by your opponent's effects, up to one of your leaders gains 2,000 power during the turn. In this format, nothing really is going to be KO'ing by effect outside of black. There are some cards in the green deck that can KO as well. There's probably your 2 main ones that you might trigger that ability. Otherwise, it's just a nice blocker to have. Next up, we have a new 2k counter in Thatch. 1 cost, 2,000 body, 2k counter on play. If your leader has Whitebeard Pirates, you can give one of your opponents minus 2,000 power for this turn. Then you can put the top card of your life into your hand. So this can work well if you've got the Atmos out there as well. And then sneaky spoiler, this all works well with the event that we have, which stops you from taking life if you have 3 or less. So you can get a nice 2k reduction for free as long as you have those cards activated. Otherwise, that's just a nice 2k counter. And then we've got Ace, which is a 5 cost, 6,000 body, 1,000 counter, is Rush because we have a Whitebeard Pirates type leader. And then once per turn, if this character will be removed from play by one of your opponent's effects, instead you may give this character minus 2,000 power. So that's good going into black, good going into blue, good going to green. There's a few of these kind of removal effects going around there. So Ace can be nice and sticky that way. Otherwise, good to have some rush going on there. And then, as we mentioned, we got the You May Be a Fool, but I Still Love You, which stops you from taking life. So this guy and the Atmos are key cards you want to see if you choose to play this deck. Other cards that are very useful would be your Hatura, just to manipulate your Don, and then your rush cards with your Ace and your Jozu. So this deck's probably not the best in terms of it, but you can get some good pressure with the extra rush. You've got a nice bunch of blockers going on in this deck as well, so you can survive. But yeah, as I said, key to be able to have success with this deck is the Atmos and the You May Be a Fool, just because it helps basically mitigate the worst thing about this deck in terms of the life taking. Other things we probably would have liked to have seen this as more events to help counter, but we've got plenty of blockers to semi-mitigate that downside. Next up, we have Uta, which is a Film 5,000 power, 5 life green leader. First saw it in starter deck 11. The effect for Uta is Don ×1. When attacking, you can reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a film card, you can add it to your hand. And spoiler, you're not going to whiff. Every card in this deck is a film card, so that's always good to know. Uta's effect is really good just because your hand size is always going to be fairly chunky. But as you can probably see by just giving a little glance over to the deck there's a big downside there. We've got a lot of events. We only have 22 characters in the deck. That means more than half of the deck is events, which is a little bit wild. That's definitely the biggest downside with this. You're going to be hitting some bricks, that's for sure. But I mean, hey, look, if you're struggling with the housing crisis, with the cost of living right now, this is going to be perfect for you. You can build a house with this thing. You can solve all your life problems with the amount of bricks you'll find in this deck. But enough blabbering, let's actually talk about what's in the deck. First up, we have 4 copies of a promo in Bart. This is 2 cost, 3,000 body, 1,000 counter. End of your turn, you may rest this character. Set one of your film characters as active. So really good to be nice and aggressive with some of your blockers, or just be able to protect some characters so you're not using counter out of your hand, because spoiler, you don't really have a whole lot. There is an exception to that, which we'll talk about in a moment though. But yeah, Bart, fairly decent. Nice to see a promo reprinted. Next up, we have another reprint of a promo. This one you can get with the original event for this, the Star Deck 11. This one is a vanilla in Luffy, 8 cost, 10,000 body, 1,000 counter. Now, this is probably one of the big upsides to this deck. You have some big chunky bodies. The Luffy and then the Shanks, which we might as well talk about while we're here. Both big boys, 10,000 power, 11,000 power. These guys are sticking around. There's not a lot the other decks can do to touch these, to remove these. And some of the decks even have like a very low ceiling in terms of how powerful their characters are. So that's the biggest plus side to this. The downside is you have to survive late game, which if you rush down Uta, you're going to struggle with a little bit. So yeah, trying to get rushed down, try and have some nice big life so you can play your big boys. But Shanks, as a new one on play, you can KO one of your opponent's rested characters. So that's anything there. So I guess you're going to the mirror. That's nice. You can KO a Shanks. You can KO a big Luffy. You can KO, yeah, anything rested, which is nice, but it has to be rested, which can be a bit of a downside. Moving on to a new card here. We get 2 copies of the Uta. This is another blocker Uta. Activate main. Once per turn, you may trash 1 film type card from your hand. Give one of your leaders or characters a rested Don. So we've got plenty of cards here that we can trash to be able to attach to our leader to get a free search from the leader, which is nice, or you can attach it to some of your bigger boys to get some nice swings in there. So yeah, a decent one there. Blocker, it's good stat lines, 4 cost, 6,000 body. Yeah, decent one to have in the deck. Now, moving on to Gordon. This guy is the MVP of the deck for sure. This dude carries the deck. He puts those bricks that we have to very good use. So this is a blocker, 2 cost is 0 power. When your opponent attacks, you may trash any number of music type cards from your hand. Your leader or one of your characters gains 1,000 power during the battle for every card trashed. So the music cards that we have is basically all our events. So music, in this case, then the image here shows song. This includes both of them. So you got all of these here. They're all music / song type. So you can trash them to be able to buff something. So technically these are all 1k counters, but you need to have Gordon out to be able to use them as counter. So if you want to play this deck, try and find your Gordons. You can search with your leader. Other thing you can search with is the new Genesis. By the way, most of these events have different arts in the starter deck. So if you're a big Uta fan, pick up the starter deck just because of the arts. They look pretty nice. But your new Genesis is a free searcher. Costs you 1. You can look at the top 3, add a film card to your hand, and then you can restand the Don which you just used. So it is a free search. Really good to have. Popping back over to the characters, we've got a new one in the Katakuri here. 3 cost, 4,000 body, 1,000 counter. If your leader is film type and you have 6 or more rested cards, this character gains 2,000 power. So that counts your rested Don, rested characters, rested leader. As long as you've got 6 cards turned sideways, including himself, it'll gain a 2,000 buff. So that's on your turn and your opponent's turn, which is quite nice. Definitely one of the better characters that we have access to. Shanks we spoke about, just getting 2 copies of Shanks. We get 2 copies of the Luffy, which is a 2k counter here. 2 cost, 3,000 body. Effect is if you have a rested Uta card in play, this character gains 1,000 power. Mainly going to be used as a 2k counter, so yeah, just use it that way. But sometimes, as you can see, we struggle with bodies. Sometimes it's just good to be able to get a body out. Now let's move on to all the bricks that we have in the deck. We've got the Fleeting Lullaby. 3 cost, activate main. If your leader is Uta, you can choose 2 of your opponent's rested 4 cost or lower characters, and they cannot become active during the next refresh phase, which is actually pretty decent. There's a lot of cards in that threshold, especially if you go against like blue and black, even red as well, and semi the mirror match here that you can kind of stun a whole lot, which is it's not too bad. The triggers to activate the same effect there as well. Next up we have Where the Wind Blows. This is a 2 cost, activate main. If your leader is Uta, at the end of your turn you can set all your film characters as active, so that allows you to be aggressive with the Uta, or things like the Bart, which you usually use to rest and then be able to resand some stuff. Then he becomes a body you can actually swing with, helps you protect all your other characters going on there. Would be nice if we had access to some other characters, but not a bad one there as well. The trigger is you can also restand all the characters as well. So sometimes you may get a cheeky block with something like the Uta, and then this gets hits in life and you can restand the Uta. Probably not going to happen, but it could. There is a world where that definitely could happen. Next up, we have the World's Continuation. This is a counter. If your leader is Uta, you may return any number of characters from your board to your hand. For this battle, give one of your leader or characters 2,000 power for each character returned this way. We don't have access to a lot of characters, so this effect doesn't really come up too often. But you can, if you have your Gordon out, it becomes a 1k counter, so not too bad. Next up, we have Tot Musica. 2 cost, activate main, you rest one of your Uta, and then you can rest 2 of your opponent's Don. In this format, not a whole lot of use. There are some events like in yellow that have some counter in there, some blue ones as well, but most of the time, just pitch it with Gordon. Next up, we have Blacklight. This is probably one of the better events in the deck. Cost you 2, activate main. You can choose one of the following. You can either rest something with a cost of 5 or less, or you can KO something that's rested with a cost of 5 or less. So pretty decent into most of the cards in the starter decks that you'll come in contact with. New Genesis we spoke about, and then finally we have I'm Invincible. Cost you 3. Activate main, you can set your leader as active, specifically Uta, which is just going to be used in this deck. The triggers, you can give one of your leader or characters plus 1000 power for the turn. Mainly going to be used to be super aggro with your leader. Mid game, late game, going to be really good. Is a pretty good finisher. Makes your leader similar to the starter deck kid, so you can get multiple swings in there. But if you see multiple a turn, you can swing multiple times with your leader, which is good because we've got a low character count. So in summary, Uta's good because of the leader effect will never miss. You have some nice big boys in there in the Luffy and the Shanks. Downside, Brick City. Next up, we have Doflamingo. This is from OP01. This is definitely one of the better starter decks. I'd say it's close to being the best. Say maybe this or purple are probably the two better ones. But let's take a look at Doflamingo. For those that don't know, a 5000 power, 5 life leader, Don times 2 when attacking, rest a Don. Reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is 7 Warlords of the Sea type character with a cost of 4 or less, you may play that character rested. Spoiler alert, you're probably not going to whiff. The only thing you may whiff on is if you hit an overheat, but otherwise anything else in this deck you're automatically going to play out, which makes this absolutely insane. That's what's really good about Doflamingo. You can spam the board quite easily with that leader's ability. Now, if you just don't want to just test your luck and go in blind, there are a few cards that help you to know what's coming up. The first one here is the Doflamingo blocker. On play, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You can reorder them, put them at the top or the bottom of your deck. Another card that helps you do that is a new card in Buggy, which is a 2k counter. Probably just going to be mainly used as a 2k counter, but you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck and you place them at the top of your deck in any order. Another card that can help reorder the top of your life here is another new one in Boa Hancock, which you only get 2 copies of as well. 4 cost 6000 body blocker on play. Look at the top 3, place them at the top or the bottom in any order. And then you can give one of your 7 Warlord of the Sea characters or leaders a rested Don. So that can work well with attaching a Don to be able to activate your leader's ability. Not too bad at all, or buffing one of your other characters. But a card that's pretty good in this deck, one of the better ones that you probably want to try and see, it has a sick artwork if you're looking at it right now, is the Marshall D Teach. 2 cost 3000 body, 1000 counter. Activate main. Once per turn, place 1 card from your hand at the top of your deck. Attach 2 rested Don to your leader or character. So you can pop something on top of your deck, any of these cards, because any of them will be value. You can then use this effect to attach those 2 rested Don onto your leader. You can then use your leader's ability, swing rested Don, play out the character you just put at the top of your deck. So the turn that you play him out, essentially you're getting a free character with the teach, because you can use those 2 Don to attach to your leader. Every other turn you're basically using your leader's ability for free, which is absolutely insane. Now, some better cards to be able to play out. The Kuma's pretty good on play. You can look at the top 2 cards of your deck, add a 7 Warlords to your hand, and then put the other one at the top or the bottom. You're basically always going to hit that there. Your overheat gear event here is also 7 Warlords, so you can add that with the Kuma. So just a nice way to get a bit of draw power going on there. Another one that's similar is the Crocodile here, which is a new one. On play, reveal 1 card from the top of your deck. If it's a 7 Warlords, you can draw 2 cards and then place 1 card on the top of your deck. You do get a full playset of that one there as well. Another decent one is a Gecko Moria. This is a old starter deck one. 4 cost 5000 body, 1000 counter. On play, you can add a 7 Warlords type card character from the trash to your hand. Has to be a cost of 4 or less, which is everything in this deck here. So recycling everything except for the event. And another nice card you can play out with a good on-play effect is a new one in Trafalgar Law. 4 cost 5000 body, 1000 counter. On play, you can return one of your characters to your hand. And then if your leader is 7 Warlords, you can return one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 lower to their hand. So in the mirror, that's anything, which is really nice. In some of these other decks we've seen, we're hitting most characters there, which is fairly decent. So pretty good effect going on there. Now, to touch on the cards we haven't, we got a Vanilla Gecko Moria, 4 copies. Jinbei, a promo, a nice reprint here. This card's actually pretty decent in this format. On KO, you can place one character with a cost of 3 or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. Yeah, hitting a bunch of things with that there. Super annoying card to be able to play against. We got a Vanilla in your Edward Weevil. We've got a 2k counter in the Mihawk. Mainly going to be used as a 2k counter. Nice to be able to recycle the 2k counters with the Moria. Sometimes you can use that effect. You're not really going to have any issues with having a decent board presence or sometimes a hand size. Next, we have 4 copies of a Blocker Lord, just a 1 cost 1000 body. We've mentioned the Crocodile, the Lord, the Buggy, the Hancock, and the Teach. Now let's just go over the Overheat, which is a 2-cost counter. Something gets buffed by 4,000 power. For the battle, then you can return an active character with a cost of 3 or less to the owner's hand. So you can bounce back some of your characters to reuse some of these effects, some good draw ones in there. But otherwise, most of the time, try bounce back your opponent's hands just to get some good tempo, good ball control right there. So this blue Doffy here is definitely one of the better starter decks. I probably want to run this one, maybe the purple one, which we'll talk about in a moment. But yeah, definitely a pretty decent one. And there's a few of these cards in here that definitely make Doflamingo in just the general meta for OPL 8 a lot better as well. I'm going to probably put Doflamingo up there as a top contender. Alright, speaking of the other good deck, we've got ourselves Purple Luffy, OPO 5, 5,000 body, 5 alive. Activate main once per turn. You may take the top card of your life to your hand. If your Don is a 0 or 3 or more, you can add a Don card from your Don deck active. So basically ramp a Don, take a life, ramp a Don, but you just can't do it on your first turn. So what's good about this is you can get to your big bodies nice and quickly, which is really good. In fact, this deck has a nice well-rounded kind of playstyle effects in there, so it's pretty decent into all of the decks. Doesn't really have a particular weakness outside of having to take your own life to be able to ramp. But let's take a look at the cards that we have. So we've got 2k counter full playset here with the Usopp in disguise with a 3-cost 4,000 body, Don ×1 on attack. If you have 8 or more Don on your field, rest one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. That's going to hit a bunch of things as we've seen already. Next up we have a playset of Robin, 4-cost 5,000 body, 1,000 counter on play. If you have 8 or more Don cards, you can KO something with a cost of 3 or less. So as you can see, we want to try ramp to get some other effects outside of just getting some big bodies. Next up, we have Jinbei in the blocker, 5-cost 6,000 body. Opponent's turn, if your board has 10 Don, this character gains 1,000 power, so it becomes a 7,000 body late game, or if you get some good ramping going on. Next up, we have the Zoro Joro, 3-cost 4,000 body, 1,000 counter. Once again, a nice play set. When attacking, if you have 3 or less life, add 1 Don card from your Don deck and set it as active. So this is pretty decent to help you ramp nice and quickly. Next, we have a Chopper, 2-cost 3,000 body, 1,000 counter on play. If you have 8 or more Don, we're seeing that same sort of trend there. Set one of your purple characters with 6,000 power or less as active. Also has to be a Straw Hat, which is all your characters anyway, so you're not too concerned about that part. So it helps you to be aggressive. Can be aggressive with things like the Jinbei, be able to restand it to be able to get a block, that sort of stuff. Next up, we have a Ferenke. This is a 2k counter, 5-cost 4,000 body. Don ×1, if you add more Don, this also gains rush. So good to have a rush option. That's what makes the red deck decent, is the rush option, but we get that in the Frankie right here. Next up, we have the Baruch or Bonkishi. 4-cost 6,000 body, nice vanilla stat line there, no counter on play. If you have 8 or more Don, give 2 of your opponent's characters minus 2,000 power. So get some good ball control going on there. Next, we have a reprint of a promo with a big boy Luffy here, 10-cost 12,000 power. 1,000 counter. This is the biggest body that you'll find in the starter deck format. The Shanks is a close second with the 11,000, but yeah, just a nice big vanilla. You can get to your 10 Don decent if you get a couple of ramps going on. Next, we have another 2k counter in another Usopp. Fairly similar effect to this one here, except we got a slightly less in terms of your power there, but the other part of the effect there, if you have 8 or more Don, you can rest something with a cost of 5 or less as opposed to 4 or less with this one. And then this new one here is an on play, whereas the old one is a when attacking. So get some good quick stuff going on right there. Next up, we have an Onami. This is a new one here, 4-cost 2,000 body, 1,000 counter as a blocker. So just 8 blockers here in this deck. On play, if you have 8 or more Don on your field, you can trash 1 card from your hand to draw 2 cards. So technically, you're not really gaining anything because you're going to play this trash card just to replace those 2 cards, but nice way to get some 2 cards going on there. So you're not going negative really, but you're not gaining anything, but also nice to have another blocker. Next up, we have another new one in the Sangoro with old mate Sanji here. 5-cost 6,000 body, 1,000 counter when attacking. Once per turn, if you have 8 or more Don, draw 1 card. As you can see, we want to try and hit that 8 Don as quick as we can. Most cards are going to be affected by that. Next up, we have a new one in our super rare, so just getting 2 copies of this. 4-cost 6,000 body Zoro Juro again. On play, you can look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal a purple Straw Hat, add it to your hand, then you can place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. So you're not going to whiff there all your cards are purple Straw Hat. A nice stat line on a searcher there, can't complain with that. Next up, we have a new Luffy, 7 cost, 8,000 body. On play, Don -1. Play 1 purple Straw Hat type character with a cost of 5 or less from your hand. You are playing anything in this deck except for the big Luffy here off this effect, which is wild. So nice way to kind of spam the board. As you can see, as we've gone through these effects, this deck is very well rounded. You got some KO, you got some power manipulation, you got some draw power, you got some board spam, you got some decent search in the Zoro, and then this is the other card here, which is the when you're at sea, you'll fight against pirates, which is basically just a purple Straw Hat searcher. So yeah, some good stuff all around there. Very well rounded deck. Got some good differences in your cost, so you're not going to be affected by certain things when it comes to blue or black or other things like that. You're going to have a nice well-rounded deck. This is, yeah, a fairly decent deck too. This one and the blue, probably the 2 best decks in terms of this format. All right, next up we have Smokey, Old Maid Smoker, making a comeback. Is a mono black 5,000 power 5 life leader. Dom ×1, activate main once per turn, give one of your opponent's characters -1 cost. Classic black shenanigans if you haven't seen old Smokey before. Then if there's a character with a cost of 0 in play, this leader gains 1,000 power during the turn. So you essentially can become a 7k swing for just 1 Don. Now, there are some decks that have some 1 cost characters, some searches going on there. Like your Whitebeard deck is a good example there. Your Doflamingo has a 1 cost blocker in there. So you can get some nice buff for quite easy against some matchups. Others, you're just going to have to work a bit harder, but we have some extra cost reduction stuff available to us because, you know, that's what black does. But let's roll through the cards in the deck here. We got a full playset of Kobe. This is a 3 cost 4,000 body, 1,000 counter on play. Trash 1 card from your hand, KO something with a cost of 3 or less. So good ball control. The downside is you're going to be limiting your hand size or reducing your hand size while using this effect. But nice to have a full playset there. The Suru here is a 2k counter, also a cost reduction minusing 2 on play. Full playset of that. Got a full playset of the Rosinante blocker, 2 cost 2,000 power blocker. We've got a full playset of Soul. This is just the vanilla 4 cost 6,000 body, 1,000 counter. We've got Helmeppo. Helmeppo is actually a pretty decent card. 3 cost 3,000 body, 1,000 counter. When attacking, give one of your opponent's characters a -2 cost. Then if there's a character with the cost of 0 in play, this gains 2,000 power during the turn. Not hard to achieve. So if you have just Helmeppo and your leader out, if your opponent has a 3 cost character in play, Helmeppo is going to be buffed by 2,000 power for the turn, which is pretty decent. The trigger is you can play this card too. That's very nice in this kind of format. So a fairly decent card. Next up we have another vanilla, a 3 cost 5,000 body, 1,000 counter. Next we have another 2k counter. This one is Virgo, 5 cost 5,000 body, Don ×1. This character cannot be KO'd by battle. That's actually pretty decent, that effect right there. Unless you're going into the mirror match, there's not a lot of removal that can touch Virgo. It's just basically the mirror match that's going to be affecting that there. Otherwise, a nice sticky body. Next, we have brand new full playset. This is our Searcher. For Navy stuff, everything in the deck is Navy, so you're not going to whiff. The other 2 cards from that search go to trash. Next, we have a new card in Smoker. This is actually a pretty decent card too. 6 costs 8,000 body. On play, you can trash 1 card from your hand, a black navy, which is any of your cards. And then 2 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less cannot attack during your opponent's next turn. So it doesn't matter if they're active or rested, they just can't attack, which is pretty decent. 4 cost, you know, going against blue, you're hitting everything in their deck. Some other decks, you have some bigger cost stuff there, but we mentioned the Suru. There is cost reduction. You get Helmeppo's cost reduction. Leader's got cost reduction built into it. You got your Ice Age, which can minus things by 5 cost. You got Garp over here, minusing 1 cost. Dashigi, minusing 4 cost. So you got plenty of cost reduction available to you. So this is definitely one of the better cards in the deck. Just, yeah, the only downside is you trashing a card from your hand. Similar downside to the Kobe. That's probably the biggest thing this deck struggles with. You have some cool effects. You have some good effects, but you're going to be destroying your own hand, which is, yeah, not fantastic for you. Next up, we have a Sengoku, a 1 cost, 1,000 body, 1,000 counter. Just 2 copies of this guy that you'll get in the deck. On play, you trash 2 black navy cards from your hand, and then you can draw 3 cards. So technically, you're just replacing those 3 cards. But yeah, might be just getting rid of some bricks for certain matchups. So not a bad card at all. But yeah, nice new one there. Next we have Tashigi. We briefly mentioned Tashigi here. 5 cost 6,000 body, 1,000 counter. On play, if your leader is Smoker, give one of your opponent's characters -4 costs. So we mentioned that part of the effect. The other part of the effect is activate main once per turn. If it's the turn this character was played, place up to one of your opponent's characters at the cost of 0 into the owner's trash. So you're basically only going to use that effect once. But yeah, nice to be able to trash something. Some blue stuff like the Jinbei that can bottom deck a 3 cost or less on KO. You can get around that, which is nice. Otherwise, you can get rid of some other pesky bodies. Next up, we have Hina, a 4 cost 6,000 body. Effect on ×1. Opponents turn this character gains +4 cost. So actually a pretty decent card for black in general. Makes the mirror matches a bit tougher for your opponent. The other part of the effect, activate main once per turn. You may place 1 card from your trash at the top or the bottom of your deck. Give your leader or one of your characters 1 rested Don. So you can recycle some of your better stuff, maybe like Kobe for your KOing, the Tashigi for the trashing, so you can get some nice recycle going on, or some of your blockers or your searches, whatever it is. That can be pretty good. Pop that at the top of the deck. Next up, we have Garp, which is a blocker. So pairs well with the Rosanata here. So you've got 8 blockers here in this deck. 3 cost, 4,000 body, 1,000 counter. The effect, activate main once per turn. Place 1 card from your trash at the bottom of your deck. Give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 cost for the turn. So yeah, you're going to be having stuff in your trash from your effects over here and from these guys here, but you can always have access to this kind of effect. -1 cost and a blocker, not too bad there at all. And then finally, we mentioned Ice Age for the main effect there, the minusing something by 5 cost. The triggers, you can carry something with a cost of 3 or less. Pretty decent. There's a lot of cards going to be running around in that threshold there, so all around a pretty decent card. So Smoker does what black does, but it's got a lot of trashing from hand to be able to get some good effects going on. So that's the biggest downside, which is its biggest limiting factor. You need a decent hand size to be able to get some good counter going on, especially going against like Doflamingo or Luffy that can spam out some characters or get some big characters out quickly. You're going to need that extra counter in your hand. So that's the biggest downside to this deck. And finally, we've got Katakuri starter deck 20. Katakuri, for those that don't know, 5,000 power, 5 life. Don ×1. When attacking, you can look at the top of your life or your opponent's life. You can then either leave it there or put it at the bottom. Totally up to you. And then your leader gains 1,000 power for the battle. So 1 Don swinging for 7,000 power, which is really nice. Get nice, good pressure, good aggression that way. Let's take a look at what we get in this starter deck. So we get full playset of Opera here, just a vanilla, full cost 6,000 body, 1,000 counter. Next we have a full playset of Blocker in Galette, 2 cost, 2,000 body, 1,000 counter. Next we have Smoothie, 4 cost, 5,000 body, 1,000 counter. When attacking, add the top or bottom card of your life to your hand, and this character gains plus 2,000 power for the battle. Very good, nice aggression going on there. So no Don required, just be able to neg a life, being able to go over 7k. Pretty good to be able to help clear board or help you go for game or just get some good pressure. Pretty decent card. And the trigger, also very nice. Trash card to play the card. Very good. We know how good yellow is with that trigger sort of stuff. Next we have Pudding. 1 cost, 2,000 body, 1,000 counter. Look at the top 4. Add a Big Mom or a Sanji to your hand, which you have no Sanji to add, unfortunately, but everything is a Big Mom in here, so you can add them to your hand. Next up we have Struzen, which is a 2k counter. The other part of the effect, to trash a card with trigger from your hand to KO something that costs 1 or less, not really going to come up. Just use it as a 2k counter. Next up we have Daifuku, pretty decent card, 4 cost, 5,000 body, 1,000 counter. Don ×1, when attacking, add the top card or the bottom card of your life to your hand, replace it with the card from the top of your deck. So look, yeah, pretty good way to draw a card. It's just basically it's just a roundabout way of drawing, but pretty good card. Nice stat lines there as well. Next up we have Peckham's, a vanilla, 3 cost, 5,000 body. Now we have a new card in Katakuri. This is a blocker, 5 cost, 6,000 body, 1,000 counter. Activate main. Once per turn, turn the top card of your life face up and give one of your leader or your characters 1 rested on. So you can use that to basically get a free leaders effect, which is nice. So play it at some characters, use this effect, flip the life face up, use the Katakuri leader's ability to maybe rearrange that card you've revealed, check out your opponents, but then you get this nice 7k swing for free essentially, which is pretty good. Outside of that, mainly is going to be used as a nice big blocker. Next up we have a new card in Cracker, 4 cost, 5,000 body, 1,000 counter. Once per turn, when this character will be carried by an effect, you may trash the top card of your life instead. Really only going to happen when going against black. But the trigger is pretty good. Trash a card from your hand to play this card. We like that. That's very good. Next up, we have a 2K counter, a new one in Brûlée, 3 cost, 3000 body. Trigger, you can look at the top card of your opponent's life and put it at the top or the bottom of their life, and then you can add this card to your hand. So, pretty decent 2K counter because you can get the effect of it and then still be able to use it as a 2K counter later on. Very nice. Next up, we have a Pudding, 3 cost, 2000 body, 1000 counter. Only 2 copies of this one in the deck. On play, you may add the top card of your life to your hand. You can set one of your 3 cost or less Big Mom types pirate characters as active. Don't know what happened to my English there, but you're really going to be hitting really like the Peckhams basically with that. Everything else you're not really going to be touching with that effect, so not the greatest card in there. The trigger though, you can rest one of your opponent's characters at the cost of 3 or less. That's a little bit nicer, so you hope to see that in life. Next up, we have a new Linlin. 2 copies of this one. This card's actually pretty decent. 6 cost, 7000 body, no counter. On play, you trash a card from your hand and then your opponent chooses one of the following. They either discard 2 cards from their hand or they trash their top life. So either way, that's pretty good for you. Big Mom, yeah, nice right there. This is also the biggest card you have in your deck. Then we've got our events, which are both old events, no new ones here. First up, we have Sovereignty here, which is a 2 cost counter. One of your leader or characters gains 5000 power for the battle. Pretty insane. Don't see that very often. The trigger, you can discard 2 cards from your hand, add 1 card from the top of your deck to your life. Very good if you see this in your life, or if your leader's ability, pop it at the bottom. Gain yourself an extra life. Really nice. And then we've got finally Thunderbolt, full playset of this. Activate main, trash 1 card from the top of your life, KO something with the cost of 5 or less, and the trigger is you can just KO something with the cost of 5 or less. Very good card into this format. You're going to hit a lot of things. Like you once again look at the mirror match, only thing you're not hitting is the Linlin. Hitting most things in all the other decks here, just a couple of the bigger boys you're not going to touch, but yeah, pretty decent card. Alright, hopefully you enjoyed your popcorn while we went through that very long video. We should hopefully have some timestamps. It's probably a bit late to tell you this information at the end, isn't it? But well. But yeah, if we play in this event, either the Doflamingo or the Luffy will play. I actually don't mind playing the Whitebeard if we see that stuff that stops you from taking life. Not too bad. The Rush is a nice pressure. The Katakuri is decent. 7k swings. It got some nice triggers that could play out. Yeah, also not another bad option there. The Uta, yeah, I'll probably stay clear for this event. It's nice collectible stuff in there for the Uta collectors there. And the Smoker's just kind of mid, I guess. But if you see your pieces, can do well, but yeah, definitely not the worst, definitely not the best. Just sitting par in the middle there, old mate, smoky. But let us know in the comment section down below what you would run, if you got any other tips or tricks, things you want to point out for people who may be playing the event. Once again, if you want to talk about more about these cards, about other stuff, One Piece stuff, join our Discord. Link will be down in the description. Otherwise, thank you so much for checking out today's video. Stay beautiful, and we'll see you all in the next one.